Princess Aravel of Lysara Prime stood on the balcony of the Grand Celestial Hall, watching the lights of the capital shimmer like millions of tiny stars beneath her. From this height, the entire city looked peaceful, elegant, and perfect. And yet, inside her, nothing felt peaceful at all. Everywhere she went, people wanted something from her. Some wanted her power. Some wanted her position. Some wanted the glory of saying the most important princess in the galaxy had chosen them. But not one person seemed to want her for who she truly was. As the future ruler of the Orionic Concord, a union of 50 star systems, Aravel was the center of attention in every political gathering. She was respected, admired, and endlessly praised. But real attention, real understanding, real connection, none of that ever reached her. She lived surrounded by noise, compliments, and expectations. But she felt alone, as if she were standing in the middle of a crowded room where no one could actually see her. Tonight was another one of those large diplomatic summits. Leaders, nobles, and ambassadors from across the galaxy had come to present alliances, agreements, and, of course, marriage proposals. The moment she entered the hall, suitors lined up like they always did, smiling too widely, speaking too sweetly, promising her power, influence, and entire fleets if she would choose them. They all tried too hard. Their words were heavy with ambition. Their compliments were carefully designed. Their smiles looked polished, not real. Aravel had learned to read people well, and she could sense every hidden motive behind every perfect greeting. But as she scanned the crowd, her attention stopped on someone unexpected. A human, not a noble, not a general, not a decorated strategist. Just a simple representative from Earth's new delegation, Commander Ethan Ward. Humans had only entered the interstellar community a few years ago. To many alien races, humans were still a curiosity. Their technology wasn't the most advanced. Their ships weren't the fastest. Their political influence was still small. But they carried something different, something the galaxy didn't often see. A strange, stubborn courage, and a way of speaking that felt surprisingly honest. Ethan stood near a display panel, talking with two engineers, not about politics, but about the weather on Earth and how humans still complained even with all the technology they had developed. He laughed easily, waved his hands when he talked, and didn't look nervous at all. He didn't look impressed by the gold-covered pillars or the crystal walls. He didn't look surprised by the aliens around him. And most important of all, he didn't look at Aravel like she was something rare or unreachable. He just looked at her like she was another person in the room. That alone made him stand out more than anyone else here. Aravel stepped down from the balcony and entered the hall, her shimmering gown catching the soft lights as she moved. A few suitors noticed her and began preparing their practiced lines, but she ignored them and walked straight toward the human. Ethan didn't notice her at first. He was too busy explaining how humans often misunderstood advanced alien touchscreens and ended up pressing the wrong panels. When Aravel finally stood next to him, he turned, blinked once, and gave a polite smile, not too wide, not too eager, just polite. "Good evening, Your Highness," he said. "I hope the summit is going well for you." No long speeches. No dramatic bow. No sparkling charm. Just a simple greeting. Aravel felt a warmth inside her chest. Something she had not felt in a long time. She nodded slightly and said, "It is busy, as always. And for you?" Ethan shrugged lightly. "I'm here to learn more than anything. Earth still has a lot to figure out in this big galaxy." There was humility in his voice, but not weakness. He didn't try to impress her. He didn't try to show off. He spoke with an honesty that felt grounding after hours of polished, false kindness from others. She studied him for a moment. His eyes were steady, curious, and open. His posture was relaxed. He didn't seem to expect anything from her. He didn't seem to want anything from her. He simply stood there as himself. "Most people at these summits try very hard to appear important," she said. Ethan chuckled softly. I'm important enough to myself. That will do. His answer surprised her. It was simple, but it carried a confidence that didn't need to shine to be real. For the next few minutes, they talked. Aravel asked about Earth, about human customs, about the ocean Ethan missed from his home in Pacifica City. He answered every question with honesty and a gentle humor that made her smile more than she expected. What struck her most was how he never once tried to turn the conversation toward himself in order to impress her. He never tried to make himself seem worthy of her acceptance. He didn't treat her like a trophy. He treated her like a person. A real person. And that was something she had been longing for. Soon, a group of nobles approached, clearly ready to interrupt and reclaim Aravel's attention. She looked at them, then looked back at Ethan, reluctant to end the conversation. Commander Ward, she said softly, thank you. This has been refreshing. I'm glad to hear that, he replied with a warm smile. If you ever need someone not trying to win your favor, I'll be around. His honesty disarmed her completely. As the nobles began speaking, she walked away with them only because duty pulled her, not desire. But even while listening to other ambassadors' strategic promises and diplomatic speeches, her mind drifted back to the human who had spoken to her like she was simply Aravel, not the princess of 50 star systems. For the rest of the evening, she found herself looking for him, watching him help engineers with a small malfunction, laughing at an alien child's question, and exploring the hall with quiet curiosity. Everyone in the galaxy wanted her. But for the first time in a long time, she found herself wanting something. Or rather, someone. For reasons she could not yet explain. And that someone was a human who didn't even try to win her in the first place. The next morning, Ethan Ward woke earlier than most of the visiting delegates. He stood by the large window of his temporary guest room, watching the twin suns of Lysara Prime rise slowly across the horizon. The skies shifted from pale silver to deep lavender, and then into warm gold. It was unlike anything he had ever seen on Earth. Every color looked brighter here, almost alive. He stretched his arms, grabbed a cup of steaming herbal tea from the service tray, and took a peaceful breath. The summit halls would be busy again today. Negotiations, speeches, and endless discussions about alliances. Ethan knew his job was simple: represent Earth with honesty and humility. He didn't have a noble title or huge expectations on his shoulders. And that simplicity made him comfortable. What he didn't expect was that his interaction with Princess Aravel last night would still be on his mind. He thought about the way she had listened to him, the way she had seemed curious, not about politics, but about people. He had never spoken to royalty before, let alone someone who ruled entire star systems. Yet she had seemed calm, thoughtful, almost lonely in a way he couldn't fully understand. He didn't know why she had spent so much time talking to him when so many others wanted her attention. But he hadn't minded. She wasn't cold or distant like he assumed a royal leader would be. She felt normal, human, even though she wasn't one. He shook off the thought and prepared for another day at the summit. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the palace, Princess Aravel walked down the long corridor with her advisors. They spoke rapidly about meetings, strategies, and proposals. But her mind drifted far away. She nodded politely when needed. But her thoughts kept circling around the human commander she had spoken to the night before. Ethan Ward. She remembered his relaxed smile, his simple words, his unpolished honesty. Most people in the palace tried to impress her with elegant vocabulary or displays of intelligence. But he had talked like someone who didn't need to prove anything. And that made her wonder. What kind of people lived on Earth? What kind of society raised someone like him? When her advisor asked if she preferred the morning session focused on trade routes or the cultural exchange proposals, she paused. Normally she would choose the trade discussion. But today, something else pulled her interest. Schedule me for the cultural session, Aravel said. The advisor blinked. Your Highness, you rarely attend cultural sessions. They are usually low priority. Clown. Yes, she said softly. But today, I wish to learn something new. Her advisors exchanged confused looks, but no one questioned her decision. Later that morning, the cultural exchange hall, filled with representatives from dozens of worlds, showcasing traditions, music, symbols, and history. It was a quieter part of the summit, usually visited by smaller delegations and curious scholars. Aravel entered quietly, attracting attention instantly, but she paid no mind to the eyes following her. Her gaze searched the room and found Ethan near the human booth. He was adjusting a hologram that displayed Earth's landscapes, blue seas, green forests, snowy mountains, desert plains, and old cities filled with warm lights. The human's booth was simple compared to others. No grand decorations, no shimmering technology. Just honest images of a world still growing and learning. Aravel approached, and Ethan turned in surprise. "Oh, Your Highness," he said quickly, standing straight. "I didn't expect to see you here." I chose to come," she replied gently. "I wanted to learn more about Earth." Ethan's eyebrows shot up. "Really? Most leaders prefer the advanced technology exhibits." "I see advanced technology every day," she said. "But seeing something genuine is rare." He smiled a small, real smile. "Then you came to the right place," he said. "We're not the most impressive species here, but we try our best." Aravel stepped closer to the hologram. The blue oceans caught her attention first. "Your world is beautiful," she said. "Thank you," Ethan replied. "Sometimes humans forget that. We argue about small things and overlook the bigger picture." "What do you like most about Earth?" she asked. He thought for a moment. "The people," he said finally. "Not because they're perfect. Actually, the opposite. Humans make mistakes all the time. They fail. They doubt. They fall short. But they keep trying. They care even when it's difficult. They help each other even when they don't have much to offer. And they always believe tomorrow can be better." Aravel listened closely, absorbing his words. There was something comforting about the way he spoke, not with pride, but with affection. He loved his world not because it was powerful, but because it was genuine. For a long moment, she simply watched him speak. His voice was calm, steady, and honest, and she couldn't help but feel something warm inside, a feeling she rarely experienced in the palace. Out of curiosity, she asked him, "Do humans often speak this frankly with others?" "Most of us do," he replied. "We're not great at hiding our feelings. It gets us into trouble sometimes, but it also makes our connections stronger." "How refreshing," she murmured. He laughed lightly. "I guess so. But being honest with people like you isn't easy. You're very important. You speak to me the same way you speak to your engineers," she said. "That's because you're still a person," he said simply. "Important or not, everyone deserves normal conversation." That sentence hit her deeply. Everyone deserves normal conversation. It sounded so simple, yet so rare in her life. Before she could reply, a group of visiting diplomats walked by and stopped to greet her loudly. She acknowledged them politely, but her attention stayed on Ethan. When the diplomats moved on, Ethan looked at her with concern. "If this is making things complicated for you," he said softly, "I can give you space. I don't want to create trouble." "You are not trouble," Aravel replied without hesitation. "If anything, you are the only part of this summit that does not feel heavy." Ethan paused, unsure how to respond. The way she said it wasn't dramatic, it was sincere. She continued, "You treat me differently, and that difference makes me curious." "John?" She continued. "Jun?" She continued. "I just try to be decent," he said quietly. "And you succeed," she replied. For the next hour, the two of them walked through the cultural hall together. Ethan explained human art, food, old traditions, and how humans still celebrated music and storytelling despite joining an advanced galaxy. Aravel shared her own people's traditions, their festivals of light, their calming meditation rituals, and the way they believed every star held a dream waiting to be discovered. The connection between them deepened not in loud, dramatic ways, but in small, warm moments. Shared smiles, quiet laughter, honest conversation. By the time they reached the exit of the hall, Aravel realized she didn't want this conversation to end. She had felt more like herself in this 1 hour with Ethan than in the entire summit. And Ethan realized something too. He had started worrying about seeing her again, hoping she would appear, hoping she would talk to him like she did today. When they parted ways, neither said it out loud. But the truth was clear. Something was beginning between them. Something gentle, unexpected, and quietly powerful. The next day of the summit began with more noise, more formal greetings, and more carefully prepared speeches. The palace shone brighter than usual, filled with visitors wearing colorful robes and carrying symbols of their worlds. Every corner echoed with polite words, hidden plans, and the constant buzz of politics. But Princess Aravel felt oddly calm as she prepared for the day. For once, she did not feel tired before the meetings even started. There was a lightness in her chest she couldn't explain, and she knew exactly where it came from. Her thoughts went back again and again to her conversation with Ethan Ward. The memory felt warm like a quiet light in a room full of shadows. She had spoken with thousands of diplomats in her life, but none felt like him. No one looked at her the way he did without fear, without hidden intentions, without trying to make her feel like she had to be perfect. He treated her like she mattered, simply because she was a person. That feeling stayed with her all morning. Meanwhile, Ethan sat with the other Earth delegates at a plain metal table in one of the smaller briefing rooms. They were reviewing the next round of discussions, trade agreements, communication network updates, and research partnerships. Ethan listened carefully. But every few minutes, his mind drifted away. He kept thinking of the princess. Not her title, not her position, just her. The way she listened closely when he spoke. The way her eyes softened when something amused her. The way she seemed relieved to have a normal conversation. He felt a strange worry he had never expected. What if he didn't see her again today? What if the summit kept her busy the entire time? He shook his head lightly. He reminded himself that she was royalty, the heir to a massive alliance. He was just a human commander from a young world. She had responsibilities that stretched across star systems. He had paperwork and duty reports. Their worlds were so different. And yet, she made him feel like those differences didn't matter. The morning passed quickly. By midday, the halls were buzzing with tension. Word had spread among the nobles and ambassadors. The princess had been spending unusual time with the humans, especially with one particular human. Some were curious. Some were amused. Some were jealous. Some were very confused. And none of this reached Ethan directly, because he wasn't part of those circles. But Aravel heard everything. When she entered a planning chamber with her advisors, a pair of noble envoys whispered loudly enough for her to hear. Why is she giving attention to a human? They are not even an advanced species. Maybe she is only being polite, another replied. She cannot truly be interested. Aravel kept walking, expression calm, but inside she felt a small, sharp sting. Not because she cared for their opinions, but because she hated how easily people dismissed an entire species just because they were new. But there was something else beneath her calm face, something protective. Ethan did not deserve to be spoken about like that. Later, during a break, Aravel left the council chamber and walked into the quiet balcony hallway. She needed a moment of silence. Her mind felt heavy from all the complicated proposals. She wished for something simple, something honest. As if the universe had been listening, Ethan turned the corner at that exact moment. carrying a datapad and looking slightly lost. He froze when he saw her. "Oh, Your Highness," he said with a surprised smile. She bit back a small laugh. "It is confusing, even for me. You are not far from it, actually." He relaxed. "Good to know. I was starting to think I'd end up in the wrong section and interrupt a royal ceremony." "That would be memorable," she said softly. For a moment, they just stood there, both smiling in a quiet, easy way that felt natural. The balcony hall was wrapped in soft sunlight from the high windows, making the moment feel peaceful. Aravel tilted her head slightly. "Would you like to walk with me for a moment? I need fresh air." "And of action. I need fresh air. And of action. And of action." Ethan nodded. "Of course." They stepped onto the open balcony together. The city stretched far below them, sky bridges, floating gardens, and shining towers. A warm breeze brushed past, carrying the faint scent of crystalline flowers. Aravel rested her hands on the railing. "It is always beautiful from here," she said. "But sometimes beauty feels lonely." Ethan looked at her with concern. "Do you feel that way? Even with all these people around you?" She nodded slowly. "Everyone sees me as the princess, but very few see me as a person." She paused, then added in a softer voice, "I think you do." Ethan hesitated, unsure how to answer. He didn't want to say something wrong. "Well, you are a person. A very busy one, I guess. But still, a person." Her lips curved into a small, grateful smile. They stood together for a long moment, watching the moving lights of the city. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was warm, gentle, comfortable. Eventually, Ethan spoke again. "Can I say something? I hope it doesn't sound strange." "You may. I think you're doing a good job," he said simply. "You listen. You try to be fair. You work hard. I can see that." The words were plain, but they touched her more than any elegant compliment ever had. She felt a warmth in her chest, soft and steady. "Thank you," she whispered. "That means more to me than you know." He smiled a little. "I'm glad." Then a sudden sound broke the peaceful moment, voices echoing from the hall behind them. A group of nobles approached, talking loudly. Aravel inhaled softly. "They will ask questions," she said. "They always do." "About me?" Ethan asked. "About everything," she replied. When the nobles reached them, they bowed deeply. "Your Highness," one of them said, his eyes darting to Ethan with interest. "We did not expect you here." "Ouse." Aravel held her calm posture. "I was taking a brief walk." "With the human representative?" the noble asked politely, but with clear curiosity. Ethan straightened awkwardly, ready to excuse himself. But Aravel spoke before he could. Yes," she said firmly. "Is that unusual?" The nobles blinked, surprised by her tone. She gave them a gentle but clear smile. "Commander Ward is an honorable representative. I enjoy speaking with him." Ethan's breath caught slightly. He hadn't expected her to say that so openly. The nobles exchanged glances, unable to question her further, and soon moved along. When they were gone, Ethan whispered, "You didn't have to say that." "I wanted to," Aravel replied. They shared a small, meaningful look. Something had changed between them today, not loudly, but deeply. Aravel realized she was choosing to spend time with him. Ethan realized he was starting to hope for more moments like this. Neither of them knew where this connection would lead. But one thing was clear. In a galaxy full of powerful beings, alliances, and expectations, the princess had found someone real. And the human who never tried to impress her had become the one she wanted to see again. The final day of the summit arrived faster than anyone expected. The palace halls buzzed with excitement as delegates prepared for the High Constellation ceremony, a grand event where worlds announced alliances, partnerships, and important declarations. It was the highlight of every summit and the moment people talked about for years afterward. But for Princess Aravel, everything felt different this time. Usually, she would spend the morning rehearsing her speech, reviewing political points, and choosing every word with great care. Today, her mind focused on something much simpler, yet far more confusing. She was thinking about Ethan Ward. Yesterday's conversation on the balcony kept replaying in her thoughts. His quiet honesty, his gentle support, the way he spoke to her without trying to win power or favor. She felt a warmth around him that she had never felt with anyone else. And she couldn't ignore it anymore. Her advisors walked beside her as she moved through the palace corridors, talking rapidly about expected announcements. "Two noble houses are planning to propose a political union, Your Highness. And the new ambassador from the Kailari sector wishes to present a formal request for a deeper alliance. And several suitors may make public declarations." "Enough," Aravel said softly. The advisors fell silent instantly. Her tone wasn't harsh, but it carried a quiet firmness that made them stop speaking. Aravel took a breath, steadying herself. She knew what everyone expected from her today. They wanted her to make a grand announcement. Something powerful and impressive. Perhaps the name of a future royal partner, chosen from a long list of influential candidates. They wanted politics. They wanted strategy. They wanted a choice that would change the galaxy. But Aravel no longer cared for a choice made by others. Somewhere across the palace, Ethan walked with the human delegation toward the observation lounge. They had been invited to watch the ceremony, though they would not participate directly. Most humans seemed excited, whispering about the impressive display of lights, speeches, and traditions. But Ethan felt strangely nervous. His chest felt tight in a way he didn't fully understand. He kept thinking of the princess, wondering if she was all right, wondering what she would have to announce today, wondering if he would even get a chance to speak to her again before leaving Lysara Prime. "Commander," one of the other delegates asked, "are you feeling okay?" "Yes," Ethan said quickly. "Just thinking." "About the ceremony?" He hesitated. Something like that. He didn't admit that he was thinking about a princess who should have been way above his world, above his rank, above everything he ever expected. And yet somehow, she made him feel like their worlds were not far apart at all. As the hour of the ceremony approached, the grand celestial hall filled with thousands of attendees. Floating lights drifted across the air. Soft music played gently, and the crystal walls shimmered as if alive. Every race, every alliance, every important figure gathered here to witness the announcements. Princess Aravel entered last. The moment she stepped inside, the hall fell silent. She wore a gown of soft white light, simple yet elegant, glowing faintly like a star. Her posture was straight, calm, regal, but her eyes searched the crowd for someone. And she found him. Ethan stood with the human delegation near the side balcony. When he noticed her looking his way, he froze, caught between surprise and confusion. She didn't smile, she simply looked at him with a softness that made his heart beat faster. Then she walked toward the center. The ceremony began with the usual speeches. Leaders announced new agreements, alliances, and diplomatic promises. Everyone clapped politely. Everyone nodded at the right moments. But the air grew heavier with anticipation as the time came for Aravel's announcement. This was the moment everyone waited for. The host stepped aside. Princess Aravel of the Orionic Concord will now deliver her declaration. She stepped forward, the hall glowing around her. Thousands of eyes watched. Every suitor stood taller. Every noble held their breath. Her advisors waited, expecting her to choose a politically perfect partner. Aravel looked at the crowd, took a slow breath, and began. "Every one of us here today understands the importance of unity," she said. "We understand the value of alliances that shape the future of our galaxy. But unity means nothing without honesty. A connection is strong only when it is sincere. People exchanged puzzled glances. Aravel continued, her voice steady and warm. Many have approached me with offers of power, of status, of influence. I respect these gestures, but I cannot base my future on what others expect of me. I must choose based on something real. Her advisors shifted uncomfortably. The nobles looked confused. Ethan felt his heartbeat quicken. Aravel lifted her gaze toward the balcony, locking eyes with the one person who made her feel like she wasn't a symbol, but a human soul. In this summit, she said, I met someone who spoke to me with honesty. Someone who did not see me as a title, but as a person. Someone who reminded me of the simple kindness that makes life meaningful. Within, whispers erupted immediately. People looked around. Some leaned forward, trying to guess whom she meant. Aravel did not hesitate. She raised her hand slightly, pointing across the hall. Her voice was clear and gentle. Everyone wants me, she said. But I choose you, human. The entire hall went silent. Every sound vanished as thousands of beings turned to look at the human delegation. Ethan felt the air leave his chest. He stood frozen, unable to move, unable to speak. People whispered loudly now. A human? She chose a human? Impossible. Unexpected. Remarkable. But Aravel didn't care about their reactions. Her eyes stayed on Ethan, calm and steady. She had made her choice openly, bravely, without fear. Ethan finally managed to breathe. He looked at her and saw no doubt in her expression. No hesitation. Only sincerity. He stepped forward slowly, every eye in the hall following his movement. His heart pounded, but something inside him felt warm, like her words had unlocked a feeling he hadn't allowed himself to believe. When he reached the front of the hall, he bowed slightly. Princess, I don't know what to say. You do not need to say anything, she replied softly. You have already said enough. For a moment, the entire hall seemed to fade away. It felt like only the two of them existed. No crowd, no galaxy. Just a princess choosing someone not because of power, but because of connection. Around them, reactions spread: surprise, confusion, curiosity. But there was no anger, no judgment that mattered. People simply did not know how to respond to something so unexpected and sincere. Ethan looked into her eyes and finally found his voice. If this is truly what you choose, he said quietly, then I'll stand by you. She smiled, warm, grateful, and full of light. And in that moment, the galaxy changed direction, not through war or force, but through a single honest choice in a room full of expectations. The ceremony ended, but the effects of Aravel's announcement spread through the palace like a wave of bright light. Every corridor filled with conversations. Every balcony carried whispers from curious observers. No one had expected the princess, future ruler of 50 star systems, to stand before the galaxy and choose a human. Not a noble, not a general, not an ancient bloodline. A simple human commander from a young world. But Aravel walked calmly through the halls. Her steps steady, her heart surprisingly peaceful. She had made her choice honestly, without pressure, without fear. And for the first time in her life, she felt free. Ethan walked beside her, still overwhelmed. He felt like he was dreaming, walking through a story that didn't belong to him. People stared, whispered, and watched him with wide eyes, some in disbelief, others with curiosity. But Aravel walked close to him, not caring about the eyes around them. You're quiet, she said softly. I'm trying to understand if this is real, Ethan admitted. All of it happened. So fast. Aravel smiled gently. It is real, every part of it. Ethan breathed slowly, trying to steady himself. She stopped walking and turned to face him. Do you think I made a mistake? He shook his head instantly. No. Never. I I don't know if I'm enough for a choice like that. Her eyes softened. You do not need to be anything more than who you already are. He met her gaze, and for a moment, the world felt quiet again. Soon, advisors approached them, looking uncertain and nervous. They bowed to Aravel, avoiding eye contact with Ethan. Your Highness, one advisor began carefully. The council wishes to understand your declaration more clearly. Aravel lifted her chin slightly. There is nothing unclear about it. The advisor hesitated. Yes, but the unexpected nature of your choice has raised questions. Then they may ask. Aravel said calmly. I will answer. The advisor nodded slowly and stepped back, clearly unsure whether this new path would bring stability or surprise. But Aravel didn't seem worried. She looked at Ethan. Come, I want to show you something. They left the busy halls behind and entered a quiet corridor decorated with floating crystals. At the end of it stood a tall door that opened into a domed chamber filled with soft blue light. Ethan followed her inside, amazed by the beauty around him. Above them, the ceiling displayed a moving view of the galaxy. Stars shifting, nebulae glowing, planets drifting slowly like painted spheres. This is the Chamber of Horizons, Aravel said. My ancestors came here when they needed to make important decisions. Ethan walked to the center, staring up in wonder. It's beautiful. Aravel stepped beside him. I wanted you to see it because this place reminds me that every choice shapes the future, even the smallest ones. Ethan turned to her. But choosing me, that wasn't a small choice. No, she said softly. It was a true one. They stood together in the center of the chamber, surrounded by the silent glow of the galaxy above. Ethan felt a strange comfort, as if the room itself accepted him the same way Aravel did. After a long moment, Ethan spoke quietly. What happens now? Aravel looked thoughtful. Now, the council will ask questions. Some will be confused, some may be resistant. But the Concord respects my judgment, and I will make it clear that the connection we share is based on honesty, not politics. Ethan rubbed his neck nervously. I don't want to cause trouble. I don't want people thinking Earth is trying to rise in status through me. Aravel smiled. People will think many things, but truth is stronger than rumor, and my decision was not influenced by Earth's status. Her voice softened. It was influenced by your kindness. Ethan felt warmth rise through him. She stared at him for a moment, touched by his words. You are the first person who made me feel like I could simply exist, without performing. Ethan gave a small smile. I don't know how to be anything other than myself. And that, she said gently, is why I chose you. They sat on the curved bench beneath the floating starlight, talking quietly about everything and nothing. Aravel asked about Earth's oceans, about simple human traditions, about how humans celebrated friendship. Ethan asked about her childhood, her studies, her favorite places in the palace. The more they talked, the more their worlds blended slowly, naturally, warmly. Hours later, the chamber doors opened as the council entered. They stood respectfully, though their expressions were mixed. The High Chancellor bowed. Your Highness, we wish to understand your intentions so that we may support your future path. Aravel stood gracefully. My intention is simple. I chose someone not because of power, but because of character. Our alliance will not weaken because of honesty. It will grow stronger. The council members whispered among themselves. The Chancellor nodded slowly. If this is your heart's decision, the council will respect it. We must only plan how to introduce this choice to the wider Concord. Ethan stepped forward, unsure if he should speak. But Aravel shook her head firmly. You are not the cause of division. You are the reason for clarity. Her confidence surprised everyone, including Ethan. The Chancellor studied them both. Then, smiled gently. Perhaps the galaxy needed a reminder that sincerity is still powerful. Aravel exhaled softly, relieved. When the council left, Ethan let out a breath. I didn't expect them to accept it. Not all at once, Aravel said. But acceptance often begins with respect. She stepped closer. And they respect you more than they show. Ethan laughed lightly. I hope that's true. Aravel looked up at him, her voice soft. This is only the beginning. The galaxy will adjust. People will ask questions. But I know my choice. And I want to walk this path with you. Not because you are human, but because you are you. Ethan felt something shift inside him, something warm, strong, and steady. He reached out gently, letting his hand hover near hers. She understood the gesture and placed her hand in his. In that quiet chamber beneath the moving stars, their fingers intertwined, softly, simple, warm, and sincere. Outside, the galaxy continued spinning, unaware that something small and extraordinary had begun. A princess had chosen honesty over tradition. A human had stepped into a world beyond his dreams. And together, they would shape a future built not on power, but on truth. The galaxy did not need to understand it yet. But they did. And that was enough.